Thank you for the introduction, Jenny, and it's great to be here. Good evening, everyone. I am Shubham, an investment associate at Emergent, and we're a Web3 fund that focuses on emerging markets, particularly India. Before we jump into the discussion, I'd request each panelist to introduce themselves and their respective ventures. Ram, maybe we can start with you.
Yeah, thank you, Shubham. My name is Ram. I run Router Protocol. Router Protocol builds cross-chain interoperability infrastructure.
Hey guys, I'm Arjun. I head ecosystem at Mantle. Mantle network is an Ethereum L2 chain, and we've built a modular chain where we use the OP stack along with EigenLayer. So we went live last month. So that's a quick brief about Mantle.
Hey guys, this is Aniket here. I'm one of the co-founders of Biconomy. Biconomy has been working in the UX space for the last 5 years now, starting off with meta transactions and like most recently dabbling down around the account abstraction ecosystem for the last 2 years.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Before we jump into the Web3 specific questions, I'd like to set some context around India's journey from being a back office to a front office over the last 25 years when it comes to exporting technology. Earlier, it was major big tech companies coming to India, setting up their business processing outsourcing units, where most of the tasks were quite transactional, such as HR-related tasks, accounting tasks, etc. And over the last 25 years, we've seen a lot of big tech companies globally coming to India and setting up their R&D centers now, including Facebook, Google, and even Samsung. So before we jump into the Web3 specific questions, Ram, if you could just help us understand what have been the key factors that have led to India being considered as a developer powerhouse, and Aniket and Arjun, you can add to what Ram says.
Yeah, I guess when you grow up, I guess at least my generation, there are two options. You become an engineer, or you become a doctor, or you're a failure. So I guess it's changed for now for the current generation a little bit, but I think there's been a focus on the STEM education track. That was one, and then the cost arbitrage, the cost efficiency has always been a big thing to start off. Obviously, you can't compromise on the quality. So that's how the whole IT export outsourcing boom started, where a lot of the banks have their knowledge centers in India, not just IT, but even back office, financial analysis, the JP Morgans, the Wells Fargos, all these guys have huge knowledge centers in Bangalore and Hyderabad and Mumbai and all those places. So yeah, it's been the focus on the STEM education, just the large numbers in terms of the demographic, a lot of young population, and just a global trend towards reducing costs. And then I guess that continues in Web3.
Oh, sure. I think what's become very interesting about the Indian market, right? So I think what really changed the game was just access to the internet and having just cheap data in a country like India, where now people have access to all of this new information. So for example, if you're a developer, typically, if you're a developer anywhere globally, if you had to get quality education, for example, you would have to go to some university, right? You would go to like a tier 1 university, something like that. But what the internet has done is it's leveled the playing field. So even sitting at home, for example, you can get access to some of the best education out there. You can be part of builder communities where you can learn from tenured people who've been in the industry for a long period of time. So I think easy access to internet has really changed the game for India, and that's kind of what we see in Web3 as well, is that if you're a Web3 developer anywhere in the world, you can be a part of this global community. You can work together, you can learn together, and you can also earn together. And I think this is like very game changing, which is why we're very bullish for Web3 in India as well. And because of all of this education available year on year, you can see that developers are sort of smarter. They have more context on the space. So that's kind of why so many funds, including Hash, who've been very kind to have like a captive India unit, have been like scouting developers and investing in the space. And of course, I must say that the success of protocols like Router and Biconomy, Polygon, Unmarshal, etc. have also brought sort of the Indian developer to the global market, where people feel that yes, like these guys have the ability to build a $1 billion company. So I think the internet has been a game changer, and now that we're all part of this global community, so then it's a level playing field, and whoever's got the most hustle eventually is going to win the game. So yeah.
Yeah, just adding to Arjun's and Ram's point here, like, I mean, like, talent was always there, right? Like, engineering in India is still like one of the best ones in the world, but what we lacked was exposure and money. Like even like building like BPOs and back-end offices is not easy. Like 25 years ago, like maintaining like an engineering team of hundreds and all. But what like last 10, 12 years with the penetration of internet, as Arjun rightly mentioned, it was kind of a game changer overall. And also just some flow of money. Like VC ecosystem in the India is just starting, right? It just got started last 5-6 years ago. But with just limited money and some exposure, what all India can do, we have already seen, right? Like companies like Flipkart, Uber, etc., Ola, just happened in the last 15 years. So it's just getting started, I'll say. Like I think the VC ecosystem is developing in India. The talent has always been there and it's just growing, so quite bullish in general, like how things going to shape up in India. Just exposure and money was needed, and I think we get it now. Like I think there's no shortage of money and exposure in India.
Arjun, you mentioned about billion-dollar companies being shipped out of India, and we've seen that in the SaaS space as well, where India holds a noteworthy position, and that clearly shows India's ability to deliver global products. We've seen that with Web3 as well. So would love to hear your thoughts on where do you see India in the Web3 adoption curve at the moment, and what do you think can propel that further?
So in terms of Web3 adoption, so this is an interesting, like if you look at some of the statistics, right? If you look at, let's say, centralized exchange volumes, what you'll notice about India is that we've got a huge number of users. So the volume may not be very high, but the user count is very high. And it kind of shows you that all the Gen Z sort of kids in India and all of the working adults, for example, want to figure this out. They want to figure out Web3. They want to understand how they can invest, how they can be a part of this community. So there's already a great deal of adoption. I think, so on the user side, for example, I see already like a very strong, very educated, mobile-first kind of a market where there's already a great deal of adoption. And I think once policymakers also see this, and it's also interesting in India where the policymakers kind of understand it a bit. There is a taxation system for crypto. It's not a great transaction. It's not a great system, but it's there, which means the government recognizes it. And as time progresses and as we have better systems, there'll be more adoption. With respect to the billion-dollar companies, I think that's like super important as developers, right? So if you're a developer, let's say sitting in some part of India, and you see, you see a Biconomy, you see a router, you see a Polygon, you kind of get inspired, right? As a developer, you feel that, hey, if these guys can do it, I can do it. So that's why it's so important in Web3 or in any space to have your heroes, right? People you can look up to, people you can emulate, where you get that energy, where you feel that, yes, I can also do this. I can go out there and build a global company. So I think that is now back. Like you can see the confidence is there. And now I feel, even like university students, etc., feel that they have it in them to go out there and build global companies. And I kind of see, interestingly, I kind of see a lot of that in Korea as well. Like, so when I meet I've met like a lot of builders over the last 2 days. I hope to meet a lot more of them. And I also see that as well, that the average developer quality in Korea is also super high. And more Korean developers and apps need to go out there and go global and become those heroes so that like Korea also becomes in some sense a global powerhouse versus, being sort of, being only in Korea or only in Asia. So, yeah.
I'll add something here, in general, when it comes to adoption, we work very closely with developers. So we kind of see like a lot of hackathons, we see like most of the hackers coming from India. So in terms of developer adoption, it's insane. Like even in ETH India last year, there were like, I think 25K people registered. But what we don't have right now is the user adoption. And there's a reason for it, right? Because most of the crypto applications that have been mostly adopted is majorly speculation, sort of gambling applications. And Indian mindset is not very much on that favor. Like Indian users are not like, very much trading focused or gambling focused. But like with the advent of more like B2C applications, like Web3 social gaming, we'll definitely see like a lot of usage happening. We're already seeing like more like social applications coming from India. In fact, like we launched recently with Fan Tiger, which is like kind of like Spotify of India. And within like 1 day, we got like, I think 20K users just signing up. So if we see like more B2C non-speculation type of application, you'll see like more adoption happening from India. And that's what I'm also very much looking forward in the next 6 to 12 months from India.
Ram, would you like to add something?
No, I think these two gents covered most of it. Yeah, I guess it's a question of there's a lot of large numbers, right? It's very easy to fall into this whole exceptionalism trap. Just 1.5 billion people, and there's a nice demographic, and there's a lot of folks that are doing great things in Web 2, Web 3. These, the CEOs of these Google and Microsoft, etc. So there are role models that inspire everybody, even a freshman, first-year student at an engineering college, right? And I guess the other thing is, the stigma around as the economy is sort of maturing. There used to be a stigma around entrepreneurship, right? I mean, you had to graduate, you had to get a job, you had to get married, and yada yada. This is a path that was rolled out for you. Sort of, the roadmap was set when you were born. But I think that is also going away. There are kids that are, I remember 2012, 13, in one of the IITs, there were kids mining Bitcoin and Ethereum, and some of them started an exchange, and yeah, they never worked a day, but they're like OGs in their own way. So there's a lot of flexibility in what you can do. Yeah,
it makes a lot of sense, Ram, Arjun, Aniket. I think one name which came across in our conversation of the last 10 minutes was Polygon a couple of times. And it's hard to not mention Polygon when you speak about India and Web3. And I think that's inspired a lot of developers, Web2 developers, to move to Web3. But would love to hear your thoughts, starting with you, Aniket, on what are the other key factors that has inspired a lot of developers to start focusing on this new technology?
Definitely. I mean, Polygon has been the torchbearer for India for, 5-6 years now. And I think one of the reasons why many projects are still, in the space, I think Polygon plays like a very important part of it, including Biconomy. So hats off to them on all the effort that they've done, from how, how humble starting they had, with no money, and then building a multi-billion dollar company. I mean, Arjun is here, so probably he's done all the hard work there. I think what Polygon kind of changes, before Polygon, no external foreign VC used to look upon any Indian project. It used to be very difficult to get the validation, but that kind of changed, overall when the Polygon, expanded the market and, kind of got adopted in the global ecosystem. Now, I think in the last sort of a bull market, quote unquote, we saw a lot of Indian projects coming up. So the perspective of investors kind of changed totally before Polygon and how it was. And also, as I said earlier, talent was always there. It just needed the right exposure, and with Polygon we kind of got it. I think what's happening in the space right now is that infra is already led by some of the guys like Router, Biconomy, Polygon, but now we're seeing more B2C applications coming from India. So this is sort of an interesting aspect that we'll be seeing the next couple of months from India. And I think overall the ecosystem is also developing. You see IBW set up by you guys for the first time. So all these things gonna help us, developing the ecosystem all together in the developer mindset from India.
Arjun, would love to hear your perspective as well. You've seen the journey of Polygon.
Oh, I mean, all the success was a team effort. Sometimes I think I get a lot of undue credit for the team's hard work. But yeah, I mean, it just speaks to that point, right? In any region or in any space, you need someone to inspire you, right? You need a win. You need a hero who inspires the next generation of developers to go and build something, right? You need a hero who sort of captures imagination of all the different VCs who then want to come to that region to invest. You always need that. And we've seen this even in Silicon Valley, right from the 60s, 70s, when the first tech companies started growing there, which is when Silicon Valley became Silicon Valley. I think Polygon did that for India, right? So there was this time when, people saw that, a ragtag team from India has managed to build a $10 billion company, and has raised from some of the biggest VCs in the world. This is unforeseen for the Indian ecosystem, and that inspired people like Sandeep, JD, Kanani, Anurag, the founders of Polygon have inspired this new entire generation of developers who now look up to these guys, and they want to be, they also want to build these companies, and they have that confidence. because none of the founders, I would say, of Polygon came from like super blue chip backgrounds or anything like that. They were normal guys who worked really, really hard and made it possible. And that inspires a lot of people. And what it also does is now I see that every VC wants to come to India and they're looking for the next Sandeep, right? So they want to find the next Polygon. And I think that's great. So that's kind of why I feel that for any space to succeed, for any region to succeed, you need to have like some North Star figure, somebody which can rally people, investors, developers around a particular cause, who can inspire, who can put that belief in you that you can do it. So I think, Polygon managed to do that. And then immediately we started seeing like, Biconomy became $1 billion company, Router became a big company. There's so many other big companies now. And every investor now has got kind of a beeline for this, for India, trying to figure out, okay, like, how do I find the next $1 billion company? Where's the next unicorn? So that's kind of why I feel like Polygon in some sense changed the game, and it's also responsible for like, through its investments, etc., responsible for like holding up the Indian ecosystem. And now I see like other apps take up that responsibility. So now others who built these $1 billion companies, they are there in the market helping other developers succeed. And so this is kind of where it's gone from one company to an ecosystem of companies, all of whom are helping each other. It's become a community. And I feel that once this starts happening, then there's no turning back. And then we will see like great things in times to come. So yeah, so kudos to all the OG companies, OG Web3 companies of India for setting that base. And now it's upon the new generation of builders to like take it to the next level.
That's a great summary. I will add one thing about Polygon, right? I think it's, and it's a lesson for all builders out there. They actually truly innovated in the time. Because a lot of folks, in fact, a lot of good VCs at the time said, why do you need an L1? Why do you need another side chain? Ethereum is going to scale, right? There's going to be sharding, there's going to be this, there's going to be that. And at that point, you guys are going to be redundant, right? But the crew, Sandeep and JD and Anurag, they just, they knew that was going to take a while, and yeah, maybe ever. And then they went ahead, they sort of stuck to the plan, and they sort of rode out that big 2018 crash, etc. Right? And I think that's a big lesson for. It's very easy to fork a uni or a compound and go to a new chain and just be sort of ride that wave for a bit. But if you want to build something enduring, irrespective of where you are, there has to be that element of innovation that is truly solving a problem. So I think that's one big takeaway for us among the many takeaways from the Polygon story. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for your responses. Aniket, you mentioned a couple of times that there's no dearth of talent. India has the numbers. Was just reading through an Electric Capital report on the developer talent base, which now states that India is number 4 when it comes to contribution of Web3 developers. What's actually stopping us from being number 1? And do you see India being holding a number 1 position when it comes to Web3 contributions, developer contributions as well?
Yeah, I think quite interesting question, and something we have been like observing very closely, because like Biconomy is a very developer-focused platform. We work with majorly all the developers kind of building the space. I think in terms of like numbers, like number 4 or number 5 or whatever it is, I think one thing we have seen is that a lot of young talent coming from India, and due to access of internet, we see like a lot of college students, coming and hacking around projects. That is probably like one of the reasons why I've seen like numbers bumping up, because the engineering talent in India is, I think, one of the highest one in the world in terms of numbers. So definitely, like in any hackathon or any sort of event that's happening, you'll see like maximum number of hackers, majorly coming from India. If not maximum, at least it's gonna be like in the like top 3, one or two firms, one or two side of things. What is lacking is adoption. It's like, as I said, right? Like if we have to reach from number 4 to number 1, it's just gonna need like 1 or 2 killer applications, and that is where we're gonna see more and more like developers coming and building applications. So yeah, I mean, like as Ram also mentioned, like it's easy to fork Uniswap, it's easy to fork Aave and stuff. But Indian developers are not kind of meant for that. Indian developers are more meant for like B2C dApps. Like that's what we have scaled in the Web2 ecosystem as well. You've seen like Zomatos and Olas of the world. So one killer app is gonna coming, and it's gonna be changing the dynamics. And I'm already like I can like foresee it that happening. already like major Web 2 players are kind of switching to Web 3. We've already seen like 1 or 2 applications launching also. So it's just like matter of time and 1 or 2 killer applications coming from the country that will change the dynamics. And easily in the next, I think, couple of years, we can see that. From number 4 to number 1, how much time it's going to take, no idea. But what it's going to take is like 1 or 2 killer applications from the country.
Arjun, would you like to add to that? I think your answer would be some more Sandeep, some more Anikets as well.
No, 100%. We definitely need like a bunch more Anikets and Rams to take things forward. But I think Aniket's absolutely right. It's about, so 2 things, right? So crypto in general needs a killer app. I think in crypto we've reached this point where there are so many blockchains that there is more block space than there is applications. So a killer app has to come from somewhere. And luckily all the infrastructure, like when you speak to folks who are building infrastructure, like infrastructure is in place as well. Talking specifically about India, yes, India's got a big population, so it's a B2C market. So the way you need to build for is B2C. I just think that the adoption to an extent is there. So Aniket talked about Fan Tiger. So you can see more and more like people who are from like traditionally Web 2 industries start to adopt Web 3, trying to figure out how to use tokens, what to do, and how they can like get more and more adoption. So I think it's going to happen slowly, and then all at once, where one killer app is going to come and it will then completely sort of change the game for everyone else. So yeah, I think finding that real killer application is now key for all of us, I feel, working together. So yeah.
Thanks, Arjun.
Also, it's going to take like investors like you guys, just to
invest. Yeah, we definitely need more hashed emergence in the space. Yeah.
For sure. Ram, would love to hear your perspective on what categories of products do you think would be shipped out of India? So of course, one is B2C applications, which Aniket and Arjun mentioned about, but any other categories that you see in India could actually dominate?
I mean, it's the easy answer there is, B2C, but I think that, with Web3, you're building for a global market, right? And so you could build a DeFi app, you could build an NFT app, you could like route a billion infrastructure layer. I think, there is I don't think you can make a prediction on, there's going to be a certain category of apps that's going to dominate. That's my sense. I think, because it's and also sort of going back to your earlier question, right? I think it's not, when you say number 1 to number 4, number 1, those are, you need 2 great apps rather than 200 copycat apps, right? So that's also the quality aspect to it. And then that sort of goes back to the whole culture around, we are very good at engineering, right? I don't think we're very good at research, because we sort of fix, it's the old Japan versus US debate, right? I mean, Japan and Korea, they got technology, they set up these labs and factories, and the cars were churned out, but the core innovation still happened in the MITs and the Stanfords. The same way, I don't think, and it's also a function of the fact that, VCs don't fund research in the Indian geography or anywhere outside the US. You go to Stanford, you have a sort of a pie in the sky idea, and then you still get funded. Whereas in India, you get funded for engineering. So I think the research DNA is something that maybe funds like you can fix over the next few years.
For sure, we'll try our best on that front. I think just in interest of time, last couple of questions from my side. So Arjun, maybe you can take this first. In Web 2, or rather just in pure play technology, we saw a lot of multinational companies target the developer talent in India. We're seeing that with Web 3 as well. A lot of protocols trying to come to India, a lot of ecosystems trying to build their presence in India. What would be your advice to these global projects? How should they go about navigating the Indian Web 3 developer landscape? You've done that with a couple of ecosystems, so would love to hear your insights here.
Yeah, great question. I would just say, so number one, it's obviously great that so many of these chains are coming, which means that all of them recognize like India as a very important market, which I think is great for the space and for the builder. Now coming to how would you target such a space and how would you go about solving this for the Indian subcontinent? I think some of the basics remain the same. So you have to double down on education. I think, internet is there, that's great. So, if you do hackathons, if you do builder sessions, you've got such a big builder community, it's so easy to sort of get like a number of developers building on your chain. So doing a lot of education is super important. Number two, we need let's say more VCs, to be who are willing to take chances on the Indian ecosystem, right? So you'll have lots of dApps, you'll find very talented builders, but then somebody has to step up and be willing to, let's say, put in that first check and be like, okay, let's take this idea to the next level. So I think ecosystems who are able to do that, like I said, who are able to build those heroes, where, for example, let's say, for example, as Mantle network, let's say, if I can go there and I can elevate 2 or 3 dApps and take them global, then everybody would want to then work with me, because they'd be like, okay, you know what, like these guys can help us succeed. So I think following some of the basics of education, of investing in the space, and being able to take like builders and dApps from India and take them global and make them, turn them into big companies, mentor them, help them, is going to be how you have to really target that ecosystem. Because just like what Aniket and Ram were also saying, like some of the investment bit and some of the other stuff is still like not very structured or missing. And if those few building blocks are in place, then you can see like crazy level growth. So that's kind of like would be my advice, that you have to offer that 0 to 100 path to developers, right? And you have to, so it will require a little more hand holding, a little more extra effort and time, but then the outcomes would be then incredibly sort of lopsided, in the sense that you would have huge number of adoption, huge number of developers. So all your metrics, etc., would be off the charts. So that's kind of how I think about it. Yeah.
Aniket, would you like to add to Arjun's?
Yeah, I think in terms of like your question regarding what MNC should look for in India and how like developer ecosystem is shaping up, I would like probably agree to Ram's point here. Like India definitely has like really good engineering talent, and I think for any sort of role like back end, front end, Solidity, you'll get like I think really quality engineers there. But research is where like I would say like we still kind of lag behind, and that is where we would need more exposure, more funding, and also more sort of sessions there regarding how and what should be built. For example, like I was in SPC along with Ram like recently. Sort of stuff that people were talking about there. We haven't seen something like this in India ever, right? Like organizing more of that quality event like in India would definitely help reaching us there. So as of now, like just keeping it short, like if anyone is looking for India in terms of hiring, look for good engineering talent like DevOps, QA, backend. We'll get like really quality engineers. But in terms of like architecture level stuff, maybe not right now. We'll get there in some time, and that'll only happen by having more exposure there. So yeah, I mean that's just advice, because we also are a developer focused company, and that's how we look at hiring as well.
The other perspective here is if you're Aptos or Avalanche or anybody that wants to tap into the Indian market, it's very easy to sort of have somebody in Dubai, Singapore, or even somebody in Bangalore. And then they have an army of folks who are sort of spreading around the country, going to colleges and doing the evangelism. And that's all well and good. But I mean, if you look back, if you look at, and that's something that I discuss with my head of growth, Ayush, all the time, third row. As a platform, do you need 100 projects spray and pray approach, or do you want 1 or 2 really good projects, right? So, and if you decide that you want 2 good projects, you should just go to Bangalore, hire a guy there, set up an incubator or whatever you want to call it, and sort of make it within the context of Web3 as much as possible, get it as much in-house as possible, and get that 1 killer app or the 1 or 2 killer apps. And that will then, like happened with Terra, right? I mean, you said Mirror and Anchor. Those 2 were launched by the team, and then 100 other apps came organically. So instead of trying to spray and pray, you might want to just hire a small team, build a nice app, and then let that speak for itself and let other folks be pulled into that. That's something that folks might want to consider.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ram, Arjun, and Aniket for the answers. Makes a lot of sense. It's been a great panel. You've been a great audience. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great week ahead, everybody.